Welcome back, my amazing treasure hunters and rare coin lovers. Today we are diving into one of the most surprising, mysterious, and unbelievably valuable discoveries in the world of United States coinage, a tiny 10-cent piece that most people overlook every day, a coin that hides an unbelievable story beneath its thin silver-colored surface. The Liberty 1 dime 1983p from the Philadelphia Mint. A coin that shocked collectors, confused experts, and today is believed in certain rare conditions to reach a mind-bending market value of almost $295 million because of a perfect storm of historical twists, minting problems, unexpected errors, and almost impossible survival conditions that turned an ordinary dime into something that feels like it came straight out of a treasure legend. From the very first moment you pick up a 1983p dime, it looks simple, lightweight, and ordinary. But the deeper you go into its background, the more you realize that this date carries one of the strangest minting years in modern American history. The 1983 production year came immediately after the extreme coin shortages of the early 80s, a period when the United States Mint was rushing, overworking machines, pushing dies to the limit, and running non-stop to meet national demand. This rush created stress on minting equipment, alignment problems, die cracks, metal inconsistencies, and the kind of rushed conditions that allowed rare mistakes to slip through the cracks before anyone ever noticed. What makes the 1983p Liberty Dime so special is not just one error but the potential combination of several errors layered upon each other, making a tiny coin turn into a jackpot discovery. Collectors know that the Philadelphia Mint in 1983 had no mint mark except the letter P used specifically on dimes, but that year the mint mark placement, the punch alignment, and the striking pressure were all inconsistent due to heavy production. This opened the door for strong repunched mint marks, rotated mint marks that drifted slightly up or to the side, and even rare doubled mint marks that appear under high magnification. A normal collector might pass it by, but an expert will immediately notice the slightest tilt of the P, the faint ghosting under it, or the way the metal spread shows signs of a misstrike. Another reason this coin became legendary is the strange metal inconsistencies reported by collectors. During the early 80s, there were several documented issues with the clad layers, especially the bonding between the copper core and the outer nickel layer. In some cases, this caused weak strikes, peeling, unusual texture, or a strange multi-tone effect that specialists later identified as a bonding error. When this error appears together with a misaligned die or a rotated reverse, its rarity multiplies dramatically. And if that error somehow occurs on a coin that was sharply struck before the bonding problem fully separated, the result is a spectacular hybrid error that has almost no comparison in circulating coins. The most valuable 1983p dimes ever reported share a cluster of key characteristics that collectors spend years searching for. The first is an ultra-sharp strike on Roosevelt's profile, where every strand of hair, every curve of the forehead, and every line around the ear stands out like a sculpted miniature. This extreme clarity usually comes only from early die states, meaning coins struck in the first hours after a fresh die was installed. Then comes the second condition, a perfectly centered strike that aligns beautifully on one side but carries a slight rotation on the reverse. This happens when the dies shift during heavy production, creating a clockwise or counterclockwise rotation that can range from 10 degrees to more than 60 degrees. A rotated reverse plus a strong strike immediately sets a coin apart. But the real jackpot begins with the doubling on the lettering around the rim. On a few early discoveries, the letters in Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or the date 1983 show clear doubling under magnification. This doubling can be caused by die deterioration, loose die seating, or the famous mechanical doubling that produces a flat, shelf-like shadow effect. But the rarest kind, the one that reaches astronomical value, is true hub doubling, the kind that is crisp, separated, and clearly visible even to a trained eye without magnification. If a 1983p dime carries hub doubling plus a rotated reverse plus a mint mark anomaly, it immediately jumps into top-tier rarity concepts. But the single most mysterious and unbelievable element in this story is the rumored transition metal planchet error that is said to have occurred on only a microscopic number of coins. Due to leftover scrap planchets from previous metal tests at the mint, A few dimes were supposedly struck using an experimental alloy mixture intended for testing durability during high-volume years. While the mint denies that any experimental planchets slipped into circulation in 1983, private collectors and grading experts claim at least one specimen is known in private hands with a weight slightly outside the standard range, a metallic ring tone that differs from normal clad coins, and a color that subtly shifts between steel gray and pale silver under certain lighting. When a coin like that is connected with multiple errors, it is no longer just rare, it becomes a one-of-a-kind object that could command any price a private collector is willing to pay. This is how the myth, the legend, and the staggering value of nearly $295 million entered the conversation. Not because a normal 1983 dime is worth anywhere close to that, but because the one rumored specimen that perfectly combined minting errors, metal transition anomalies, and a flawless preserved surface was privately estimated by high-end collectors to be worth whatever the top bidder offered. Some coins become priceless not because of a public auction but because collectors know that if one person owns something unique, they control the entire market for that specimen. In rare coin economics, uniqueness multiplies value infinitely. Now imagine the story of this coin making its journey into the world. A dime minted during a rushed era, struck under pressure, formed on a mysterious planchet, stamped with a slightly shifted mint mark, carrying subtle doubling, rotating ever so slightly on the reverse, surviving the wear and tear of decades, slipping unnoticed through thousands of pockets, drawers, washing machines, vending machines, car seats, countertops, and piggy banks. Most coins from that year were spent until their design was worn flat, but this extraordinary piece somehow stayed sharp, unblemished, and untouched. It avoided scratches, avoided chemicals, avoided bending, stayed out of circulation, maybe tucked into a forgotten collection, a jar, a box inside a closet, quietly waiting for someone who understood its value. Collectors call it the silent millionaire maker. A coin so small, so light, so familiar, yet hiding a fortune beneath its surface. Anyone could have touched it. Anyone could have spent it. Anyone could have ignored it. And that is what makes the 1983 Liberty Dime one of the most fascinating modern treasures of United States coinage. And as we dive even deeper into its world, we see how many varieties exist that push its desirability even further. There are off-center strikes from 5% to nearly 50%, each one creating a dramatic look where part of Roosevelt's head stretches toward the rim, while the opposite side shows a thicker border. There are broad strikes without collar pressure, giving the coin a wide, pancake-like shape. There are misaligned hammer-die strikes where only one side is centered. There are weak strikes where insufficient pressure created ghostly outlines, and there are over-polished dies where details vanish entirely from certain areas, giving Roosevelt an unusually smooth appearance. Then we also have clash marks, caused when dies strike each other without a planchet between them, transferring the faint impression of one design onto the opposite die. On some 1983 dimes, collectors have spotted traces of Roosevelt's profile faintly imprinted on the reverse side, creating a spectral echo that makes experts immediately examine the coin under stronger magnification. Even the edges of the coin tell stories. Rims that appear thicker on one side indicate uneven pressure. Rims that show metal flow lines indicate die fatigue. Rims with faint doubling around the denticles suggest vibration during the strike. Every tiny detail is a clue to how the coin was made, what equipment it passed through, and what exact moment in the minting process it represents. When all these clues align in one unique example, that example skyrockets in desirability, rarity, and valuation. That is why high-level collectors sometimes pay sums that sound impossible to ordinary people. They are not paying for a dime. They are paying for a historical phenomenon captured in metal, a once-ever accident that nature, machinery, and chance created together. The 1983 Liberty Dime is also wrapped in rumors involving several grading organizations that supposedly evaluated early specimens and believed they had discovered something extraordinary. While none of those claims have been made public, whispers among collectors say that at least one example was tested, scanned, measured, and analyzed with extremely advanced tools, revealing subtle metal composition shifts that could not be replicated. That discovery alone is what started the astronomical valuation estimate.